Today is Saturday, September 27th, 2025. And I came back not too long ago from a walk by the river. A month from now, there's going to be a public speaking competition. Um, yeah. And right now, I'm just looking at an email that my friend sent me, because we're both on the committee for it, about all the topics that there are for it. And I figured since this era, this chapter of my life is just embracing the flow of how I feel, how I think, who I am, really. But not just who I am in the sense of how well I'm doing, like no, it's not what grade of person I am. I'm doing good, I'm doing bad, I don't like that way of looking at life. I think it needs to be something more unfiltered. Just, yeah, how am I eating? Not how many meals, but am I eating with a smile on my face? Am I excited to be at the table? Who am I with? What am I doing? How? How am I consuming life? And how is life consuming me, my energy? When I think of the idea of public speaking, say something like this, clicking record on a laptop, alone in a room. There's literally no one around me. I'm just in I was gonna say my own home, but no, I'm in a community's home that is being offered to me in exchange for the work I'm doing. But I don't know if this space is something I get to call my own in the sense that I deserve it. I worked for it. No, I'm working for it. The second I don't have the space. There's people around me, literally neighbors, who would kill to have a space for themselves. And the only place they could kill to have a space for themselves is a jail cell. And even then, I don't know where I was going with that. I don't. I think it's just weird that it's easier to ruin your life than it is to build it up. I've had the police called on me like what? More than three. More than three times. The first was I was 12. It's always by a neighbor. I wish I could say I did something. But no, it's just always by a neighbor where if I walk around at the sure wrong time, whatever the fuck that means, um, for some reason, I know the reason, but for some reason, it's just ingrained in some people's minds, maybe because of the culture we live in, that when you see something that makes you feel afraid, you don't have to question why you feel afraid, but you see something and you feel afraid because of what you've seen, whether it's just someone existing around you. Somehow we all know that we live in a world where you can call violence onto them to make you feel better, but that if someone's sitting there in need of support, resources, immediate aid, rather than immediate removal, immediate policing, right? If they're in need of protection and service rather than policing, I don't think those are the same thing. Um, those calls, those numbers with the services, they come with wait times. They come with something that doesn't give priority, something that feels more impersonal. Maybe that's why I'm doing it this way, whatever it is that I'm doing right now. I think everything I'm doing feels impersonal. Feels like I'm trying to wrap my head around how to be, I don't know, human, successful. But when I say successful, I picture something that just doesn't feel authentic. I used to think when I was younger, you get all the good grades, you get the nice little job, you get the whatever, like the all the friends, all the this, all of that, you'll be happy. And I was happier with them in my life, but I think I just wanted things to not feel surface level and temporary. And by definition, jobs, friends, grades, by definition, they're temporary. I don't think there's anything in this world that isn't temporary. I think I distracted myself trying to find something eternal, only to realize that the process of looking, trying, changing, adjusting, believing in the better, that's the thing that's eternal. And that's the heart of public speaking. I don't think anyone would ever get on a stage and say what's on their heart if they didn't think life would be better because of it. I don't think anyone goes and shares parts of themselves genuinely believing that life is going to be worse because they did a hard thing. I think people are scared that they'll get a negative response and they'll feel worse if they share those parts of themselves. They're scared they're going to regret doing a scary thing, which I get. But I think that the people who push through that scary feeling and always do it, always put their heart on the line and say, this is who I am, this is what I need, and this is who I'm going to try to be. I don't think they ever lose in life. And even if they do lose, it's just they lose baggage, they lose distraction, they lose worry, and they gain peace. I feel a bit ridiculous recording this, but I still think it's necessary to do it, even if it feels a little ridiculous. Because in this document that I'm looking at for the public speaking topics, there's about 13 options for what sort of topics you can choose. And I'm going to answer every single one in this video. Am I going to give a whole speech? No. But I'm going to tell you where my mind goes when I read it. So you can have an idea of how we're different and how maybe we're the same. Because I definitely think we are the same. We're human beings. If you understand me, if up until this point you've understood the words coming out of my mouth, number one, I'm sorry because English is not a heavenly language. And the reason we both speak it, I don't think speaks well to our indigenous roots. But second, thank you for staying with me anyway, despite the fact that, to be quite honest, this world we live in is much closer to hell than it is heaven. Thank you for giving me a reason to smile without me having to fake it. I'm happy to be doing something ridiculous. Because question number one out of the public speaking topics is what are some effective ways to encourage younger generations to learn and speak the Cree language? I think the most effective way is just to kind of what you're doing outside of school. living in Cree culture, not Cree culture as a class, not Cree culture as a land acknowledgement, but literally your family, your friends. If you are in a Cree community per se, and you actually invest your time in just connecting more to the people around you, to the land around you, to the history around you, to just, you know, whatever isn't walls, whatever is outside, whatever is inside. Why wouldn't that be effective? You went from being a baby, a little mush of goo-goos and gagas, no real deep thoughts going on. You were just taken in the world. You went from that to being able to understand and communicate, to navigate independently on your own. You didn't just say your first words, you didn't just take your first steps. You did multiple things, and now you're doing them all at once. Not everyone gets there. Not everyone lives long enough. I remember last year there was a fire where some very young kids lost their life, not too far from where I am. I walked by their grave. If I'm going to remember them as they were, as the sweet children they were, with an even sweeter mother who loved them just as much, buried right with them, I think in my heart I have to hold on to the fact that youth is not guaranteed. Adulthood is not guaranteed. Learning and speaking a language, regardless of where it's indigenous to, because again, English, it shouldn't be as worldwide as it is. So let's put the idea that we're speaking it, let's put that to the side. If we're focusing on connecting to our own culture, whether for me it's Kirundi, maybe a language it's not a language that you know, but it's the language of my last name. When I try to think of how to encourage myself and those who are going to come after me to learn and speak it, how am I going to encourage, say, the students I have in a class who are of Cree culture? How do I encourage them to learn and speak it? I have to teach them that I'm not important, that my voice is not is not the thing they should be listening to. If they hear me, that's great. If they find wisdom in what I say, that's great. But I'm not the end goal. The reason they know me has nothing to do with them. But the reason they speak, the reason they exist, has everything to do with them. So if we're trying to encourage younger generations, I think we need to take a hard look at what we've allowed and what we've cultivated right now. Because if I move on to question two, it asks, what are the biggest challenges facing Indigenous youth today, and how can they be addressed through community action or personal initiatives? And to be quite honest, if I'm not going to mince my words here, the biggest challenges facing Indigenous youth today are the exact same challenges facing Indigenous youth yesterday, and the day before, and the week, and the year, and the month, and the century, and the millennia before. Colonialism, government, not overreach, but just government existence whose sole purpose, sole purpose is to one, extract resources from the land it governs. Number one, mining, that's what mining is. In the past, it used to just be using, right, the resources that happen to be there that you happen to find. But no, think of government as a practice where now we have whole machines, whole machines. Those aren't built out of nowhere, whose sole purpose is to dig up the earth, whose sole purpose is to dig into the earth. These are no longer human hands in the making. There's deep, insidious ideas. There's deep, insidious pockets being lined with money, whose sole idea is just about how do I take a piece of land and how do I make a profit from it? How do I create a trust fund from it? How do I create personal comfort from someone else's homeland? That is the biggest challenge facing Indigenous youth today because jump back 60 years ago, there was a different river than the one I walked by this morning. It was a little less dammed. It was a little less poisoned by mercury. There was a little less pollution. And the amount is only going to go up per day because we live in a society that creates with no spirituality in mind, right? When food comes in wrappers, the wrappers aren't there because they make the food better. They're there because they don't expect it to be eaten in the same place it was made. That's not how you make money. You make money by stealing and selling it elsewhere because the people you stole from aren't going to have the money to pay you, right? If we want to get into it, we want to get into the horrors that Indigenous youth have faced. Say here, we could say that it was the residential schools alone because there was sexual abuse, there was physical abuse, there were malnutrition, there was deaths. But if the only reason we say those things no longer affect our youth today is because they don't happen in the schools anymore, or me, I can't beat a kid. I'm not allowed to sexually abuse a kid. If we say that that's why the schools are better, sure, but if the kids I'm teaching are still susceptible to sexual abuse just outside the school in their own home, how is that less of a challenge? If there's still physical abuse outside the school now, but still in the community, passed on by the people who received it just a generation ago, how is that less of a challenge? What have we fixed here, other than the location? Oh, we stopped. The schools don't do that. They're allowed to speak their language in school now. Cool. My tax dollars, though, are funding bullets and bombs to kill Indigenous children across the continent that I'm from right now. As I'm speaking, that is what's going on. Every time I get a paycheck, there's a portion taken out. And that money literally goes to, the people who are extracting, stealing, destroying land. Yeah, it goes to them. That's how they keep it up. Because the second part of the biggest challenge is outside of the physical violence is the spiritual and mental violence. It's slavery, but when I say slavery, you're gonna think of a form of slavery that doesn't exist exactly as it is now, right? When you think of like American slavery, chattel slavery, one, I need you to realize that that form of slavery ended less than 100 years ago, right? The last person, and at least in the United States of America, we're thinking down south. We're talking about that very evil entity. The last person who was actually existing in the conditions of like that very deeply insidious form of slavery, I believe, to my knowledge, was alive in 1942. That's when that person, Alfred Irving, Alfred Irving, a former slave who was beaten so severely, who was enslaved, like the violence was so severe, yet was freed in 1942, less than 100 years ago. How is that connected to now? The government that did that still exists today, exactly as it is. The government enslaving us right now was around, operating just as well as it was then, as it is now. Nothing has, right? There was no hard line where they decided to be good people. The horrors of then are just a hop skipping away from now. And the enslavement has just changed to, rather than physical chains, it is now an enslavement of your time, right? So that it's not like it's not that they will beat you if you don't do what they want. It's that they will watch you starve if you don't work for money. They will watch you die and suffer in health if you don't have the right documentation to say you deserve it. If you don't take the time to renew your what, your status card, what we've lost the plot. The biggest challenge facing indigenous youth today is that we've lost the plot severely. Most people don't even know what people mean when we say indigenous anymore. Quebec people think they're indigenous to Quebec, whatever the fuck that means. I don't know how a French person can be indigenous to here when they so clearly trace back to France. I don't know how you could walk around and be like, oh, c'est belle ici, là. Oh, wow, 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 ces arbres-là, ça parle à l'ADN dans ma peau. No, 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 no. There is delusion. There is delusion running rampant across all the institutions, everything, your schools, your hospitals, your every everything that was made before you were born was made by people who don't know what good looks like. I'm gonna be real with you there. Made by people who don't know what good looks like, who don't know. I could keep going. But yeah, so how can that be addressed through community action or personal initiatives? Maybe the personal initiative we need, maybe the community action we need is just to stop for a day, for a week, hell, even for a month. For a year seems like a stretch, but the fact that if we were to all just let a day pass and let the responsibilities roll off to the side and just see what happens there. Right? We don't drive a car, we just let the day happen. Right? We don't go to work, we just let the day happen. We don't go to school, we just let the day happen. Everyone did that. The fact that things would fall apart is ludicrous because the birds are not in charge of being somewhere at some time. The bugs are not in charge of being somewhere at some time. The trees don't have to shake their leaves and do a certain thing somewhere at some time. It's very much an illusion. Whatever this is that I can do now on a Saturday, but not on a Monday. 1:10 p.m. on a Monday? No, that's period three. I'll have X class on this day, X class on that day. It's that's a bit ridiculous. So if I answer number three, how can modern technology be used to preserve and promote Cree culture and traditions? Um, this might be a bit controversial, but I think one, either we just use modern technology, say like a phone, and we actually use it in Cree language by Cree people for Cree purposes. I mean, here everybody uses Facebook to communicate, and that's cool and all, but Facebook does not give a shit about Cree people. Facebook won't even let you put the right location of where you are because it doesn't recognize you as people. Sorry to say. Facebook doesn't, Facebook is American. They do not give a fuck about indigenous people. Modern technology does not give a fuck about indigenous people. So you either destroy the modern technology and learn to live without it, or you have to completely revamp. And by revamp, I don't mean right over. I mean make your own phone. Don't rely on little kids and mines in the Congo, near where my family's from. to make them and ship them for you. If you have like, because here's the thing. If you have an Apple iPhone, this applies to most phones. But genuinely, if you have an Apple iPhone, you very much are a touch away from the impacts of the slavery I was talking about before. If you're not questioning, how did this get made? How is this in my hand? Who is profiting from this? If you're not questioning that, and then you act surprised when terrible things are going on around the world, I don't know what to tell you. It's in your hand. If you'll pay money for it, they'll kill for it. They'll enslave for it. If you'll pay money for it, they'll kill for it. Because they want your money. And when I say they, that could be anything. That could be your neighbor. A lot of people aspire to be in the position of the ones doing the oppressing because it's tiring being the person being oppressed. And that's the gate. That's the pipeline here. Where say I'm a school teacher. Let's cosplay. Let's pretend I'm a school teacher in an indigenous community. Um, if the only way you can learn math and science, which is just culture, culture is just math and science. Culture says, hey, we're alive, and the days keep adding up. And when a year happens, everything we've observed repeats very predictably, like math. But also the materials we use to keep our bellies full and our bodies healthy, they require some knowledge about how the world works, science. Culture is just putting those two things together. The days add up and repeat over a year, and we need to be healthy and full to continue living. Combine those, you get culture. Yeah. So if your only access to culture, say in a school that just happened to be there so randomly, um, is only available through colonial languages like English or French. There is no actual way for you to learn about the greater world through your own culture, through your own language. Um, then I don't know what to tell you, but you are being pushed towards being an oppressor. If you succeed, if you get your degrees, then you will be in a better position to earn money soaked in blood. That's why it's powerful. It's soaked in blood. I got these glasses for a couple $100, but much cheaper than I would had my brother not owned or been a manager, not owned. We're not that far. But my brother was the manager of the glasses store. So I was able to get them 50% off. So what could have been something that really could have bankrupted, say, a mother of two, right? For me, with my little paychecks from my degrees and my little 50% discount from my personal connection to the manager of the store, I am now more able to see colonialism in front of me. Why did I have to pay for it in the first place? It's a disability in a world of free healthcare, right? It's a disability, but I still need to pay hundreds of dollars. Who made it? Where did this come from? I don't know. But I give a couple $100, I get vision. If you don't question it, the blood isn't visible. But if you do, then the blood doesn't become this scary horror movie soaked thing on your hands like, oh my God, what did I do? You just kind of understand, oh, okay, a poor person made this. And they're probably, if they needed the same luxury of vision, if they just wanted to see the stars and they just needed help with their eyesight, tough tits, right? Tough tits. Yeah. They don't have the modern technology. So they don't get to preserve and promote their culture and tradition of being able to live life fruitfully. They don't get that. So I think it's a double-edged sword. You can be part of the modern or you can die because of it. Eh, because yeah, what's number four? What qualities make a good leader in your community, and how can young people develop these qualities? Because it says in your community, like when I'm reading this, I'm thinking my community. I think of the Burundian president and how he has the same last name as my dad. And when he's preaching to his people, he's the leader, he's the president. Sometimes he'll talk about how gay people should be dead, you know, and they love him for it. They're like, yeah, yes, a religious, God-fearing man fighting against the woke mind virus or whatever the fuck that means. Like I said, some people consider evil as a good quality in leadership. They want people who are going to imprison the criminals. They want people who are going to to make everything great again. They want that. They consider that good leadership. And for young people to develop these qualities, to be quite honest, they just have to kind of consume and mirror that, You're watching your TikToks, your Instagrams, your Twitters, you're copying your environment because unfortunately this is the environment. Then yeah, you will develop these qualities. But if I had to ask what would make me a good leader in my community, it has to be the opposite. I need to humble myself out of this illusion of leadership. People think leadership means one person leading the masses. I think of leadership as one person feeling full and whole as part of the masses, as someone who is just a single person in the community, just a single person, nothing more, nothing less. The nothing more is important because we're not here to speak over others. We're not here to take over the story of others and these English words I'm speaking, they're terrible for that. It's like a land acknowledgement that doesn't do anything to actually acknowledge land. Oh, Canada, our home and native land. If you're going to keep that as an anthem and then say, well, actually, you're just kind of fucking stupid as a leader. But if you're someone who says, yeah, I grew up as Canadian, but clearly that didn't make me a good person. So you tell me, what is it that pushes you to be a good person? You tell me, and I'll listen. That's leadership to me because you're still guiding the conversation. You're still guiding the progress, but you're taking your baseline out of it. It's not about making you better. That's not what leadership is. It's about making the world better so that you can live in it with things being better. And sometimes making the world better means taking the power out of your hands and putting it in the hands of someone who might not have had an opportunity to speak had you not done that. That's why I want more people to just be okay with public speaking. You don't have anything to lose other than your dignity. And dignity in this culture means jack fucking shit. It means jack fucking shit. So yeah, what's number five? Can you share a personal experience where you overcame a significant challenge? And how did your cultural background support you? Well, yeah, when I was 7, at an all-white French Catholic school, I was facing the significant challenge of racism. My teachers would take away my bathroom privileges. Kids would call me poo face, N-word sometimes. I was grade one. I would just chill with the kindergartners because they hadn't learned racism yet. And they were nice to me. But everyone else, including the teachers, horrible. Terrible, terrible experience. I was only there for 6 months, but I learned what it meant to be suicidal. It was quick. They were effective. They had practiced for centuries. Maybe not those individuals, but the culture that like really allows that type of shit to fester, that type of hate. Yeah, no, they were good. How did I overcome that suicidal like weight? I tried. I tried to throw myself off the balcony of the 13th floor of my family's apartment a bit after. Like we moved out. So I was at a different school, but I just didn't know what to do with that heavy feeling. I just didn't care anymore. I was like, if adults don't even have to care about me, right? Then why would police have to care about me? Why would the government have to? Like, if it's really true that there are adults who would like take joy from taking away my bathroom privileges, I can see the joy in their eye that they get from minimizing my existence. What am I doing? What am I doing here? What is it? What is being good mean? So yeah, I tried. I was too weak. I was seven. I like they build those railings up really good. So I gave it my best. I was like, ah. Oh, my brother was watching too. It was traumatic. I'm saying it very lightheartedly. He's probably still scarred by it. I forgot for like years. So when I look back, yeah, like I gave it a good go and I just couldn't do it. I just wasn't strong enough. And I cried really, really, really hard. I think that's how my cultural background supported me. I just had it in my body, the ability to cry really, really hard. My cry so hard your soul kind of just leaves your body and you just stop expecting better. Right? I never tried again after that because when all you want to do is die and you can't even do that, what the fuck else is there to do? Like, what am I supposed to be mad? I'm trying. My fire's gone. My fire is gone. Everything gone. Some other spirit had to take over, to be quite honest, because, you know, I was living in a land where no one really spoke my native language. I wasn't surrounded by my cultural traditions. There was nothing to learn. I wasn't required to be there. My cultural background supported me by just being an empty vessel. The person you see here is a husk of who I was supposed to be. I was supposed to be born so far away from here, speaking a completely different language, doing completely different things, living completely different life. But no, because hell had already found my culture, because the apocalypse already came, because being Tutsi and being black are two separate apocalypse narratives, unfortunately. Um, I was able to find success being nothing. I was a perfect student, one who did all the work, had no goals, had no spark, no will to live. I was so easy to teach because I was nothing. And so that challenge of feeling suicidal, even today, I wouldn't say that feeling ever goes away, unfortunately, but how did I overcome it? I still have yet to try again, and I don't think I ever will, because one day I'm just gonna die. I don't need to try. I'm just gonna die. So what? I feel like if someone else were to answer that, they'd probably try to make it more inspirational. But that's literally how I get through it. The reason I get up and I show up is because what else am I supposed to do? Be mad? I'm 26 now. This happened when I was seven. I still find joy in the day to day. But yeah, no, I've just stopped expecting better. I don't wish that on anybody. I don't, but that is genuinely how I get through it. I just don't expect better. It's all theater. It's all cosplay. I literally don't believe in any of this. Like when a student gets a bad grade in my class, I literally don't see them as dumber. I can't because it was all theater to begin with. Like Are you supposed to feel bad about yourself when everything around you has already gone so wrong that the person in front of you has lived the stories that I'm just telling you? The plot was lost a long time ago. The fact that you're here alive, that's a celebration to me. But if we're not going to celebrate, if we're just going to keep these things going, then the least I can do is just not judge the people going through it. Because I don't judge myself for it. So how could I judge someone else for it? Am I supposed to what, like throw seeds on the concrete and then yell at them for not growing despite not giving them any soil, without giving them any water? Ugh, release me. This is why I don't like speaking publicly anymore, I guess. I have a lot to say, but it's just mud. That's what it feels like sometimes when I speak. Like, would I want my theoretical students to listen to this? No. But maybe it might help them feel more human. Maybe. Maybe. Maybe that's why it'll still be available. I'm not gonna put it on a screen and say, pay attention, look over here, listen to me. But no, if you're really struggling with that type of stuff and you want to be able to picture yourself alive at 26, I'll tell you what, I have a lot of good friends in my life, a lot of good love. I've had a lot of good experiences. I have never regretted being alive. I just don't like the idea that there are kids right now. And when I say kids, I just mean younger than me, younger than 26, who are genuinely questioning why they feel so shitty. Genuinely questioning. I don't like the idea that we're just letting them think it's their fault when they're the ones being failed by us. 26 and older, if you're older than 26, get it the fuck together. Because if you can't recognize that this is just a pattern and it's going to repeat, then you've lost the plot because I just, if I can just help one person see themselves as one of the things that makes the world a better place, then I don't care when I die. I don't. Because that's it for me. Like that's just the point of life. Like I just don't think I should be doing anything else but helping people see that they're the reason life is worth living. They're the thing that makes people's day better. That usually when you're trying to fake a smile and force it, no, when people see you interact with you, you're the reason that they don't fake it for that one part of the day. And what sucks is that most of the time you do have to fake it. Not because you're forced to, but because if you don't, you're gonna just be hit by the fact that a lot of us are sad. For a lot of us are lonely. A lot of us live really, 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 really tragic lives. But when you let that sit, kind of like about like 5 rainy days in a row, the sun is still there. It comes eventually. It does. So six, in today's globalized world, is learning a third language essential for personal and professional growth? Discuss the benefits and potential drawbacks of acquiring an additional language. Um, I would say if we stop thinking of language as like a colonial thing, like I know English, I know French, I know this, I know that, and we start thinking of language as almost like a form of art. I know how to paint. I know how to write poetry. I know how to dance. I can tell you the same story of love, life, and beauty in three different ways, right? If we view language like that, then yes, I think it is beneficial for personal and professional growth because the people who draw They make me inspired, both personally and professionally. So you should push to find some place where you can draw in a way that adds to your life and moves you forward. You should. The people that write poetry just like me, they make me understand what love is. They make me want to be a person rather than just exist in gray. They make me want to scream my name out. Yeah. They make me want to scream my name out into the wind. They make me want, period. They make me want. I want things again when I read poetry. I'm brought back into myself. And the people who dance, I'll always be jealous of. So, so jealous. Maybe the word's envious, actually, rather than jealous. I want their body, but maybe I just want their body closer to mine in the least lustful way possible. I think, yeah, that's it. When language is art, I don't think you need to spell out the benefits or the drawbacks. It's just that art is ugly, art is messy, art is raw. Not everyone's going to be prepared to do what it takes to learn a new language, per se. But the benefits, I think what people try to get out of religion, like when people like convert to X or Y, in the hopes that they're gonna find their salvation there, I think what they're really looking for is the spirituality that comes from those arts, you know, the religious imagery. They had to hire the best artists, the best painters to draw those scenes because they are beautiful, they are mesmerizing. The best poets to write their holy books because those words are inspiring, and the best movers to perform their holy traditions because you do get enraptured by that. Everything that makes religion interesting is just spirituality in artistic form. The religion part is just like the difference between school and education, right? Education is something we all need. Everyone has to learn how to be a community member. Everybody has to learn. In the same way you learn your first words, you walk your first steps. But when you turn that learning process into school, people get left behind. Education can wait until you're ready, but in school, people get left behind. It's the same with religion. Everyone has a spirit. There is room for everyone when you worship spirit. But religion condemns. Religion excludes. Religion colonizes. Sorry to say. So I don't put too much power into the labels used there. But let's see the next one. What are the potential downsides of spending too much time on social media? And how can you manage them? Well, there's many downsides, honestly. Um, I'll start with the one that's not talked about the most. Your brain is not equipped to handle multiple worlds at the same time. Social media is a black hole. See this black screen? You see how when I tilt it, it reflects the environment around. We're looking outside the window, right? We're looking, we're down my heater, whatever. We're we're looking around. There's the screen still does reflect things, but when I turn the screen on, it's a separate universe. When you read things without hearing people say them, you're hearing what you think they're saying. You're not hearing them. You're hearing what you think they're saying. That's why this is the closest thing you can get to healthy social media because you are getting me as I am. Every time I stumble, I could go back and edit. I could go back in and make myself cleaner. I could go and do my hair a certain way. I could make sure this and that. And I think that's the trap of social media. It convinces you that you need to be edited to be worth watching. That if you post a 20, 30 something long minute video of yourself talking, no one's gonna care. No one's gonna listen. You need to be interesting. You need to be engaging. You need to post that it photo. You need to have this and that. It convinces you that because that's how it works. Metrics. It's a different form of slavery, I would say. Not slavery in the sense that there's a master and a whip, but you become a slave to your own insecurity, really. There's some people I know who are just beautiful in every way. I don't think it's about physical appearance, but just beautiful in every way, who are convinced they are ugly because they don't have the validation of likes and this and that telling them otherwise. And they're convinced because they take the messaging of this as reality. And when you're young, when you literally don't have any other parallel, when you literally don't know what relationship is like without this existing, because when I was younger, these were new. Every generation before me did not have these growing up. So the generation after me, you're the first who are growing up thinking that these are old, that these are just part of life. You're the first. It's a trap, right? Spending too much time on social media. If your relationships aren't bigger in real life than they are on here, then you're spending too much time on social media. How do you manage that? Be able to live without this. If my phone got destroyed, would it be unfortunate? Yeah, because it would be a bit harder to call my mom, a bit harder to check in with friends, but I'd be fine. It'd still suck, but I'd be fine. Like I wouldn't be like, oh no, no. So if you can really picture that, that if someone destroyed your phone, you would be like, it would be the end of the world. You have to do some soul searching there. You have to be able to live without it because you are social media. You are a body that can communicate how you feel. You are the first social media. So if you don't give your own self-worth, your own, I don't know, self-growth more time and attention than you do tippity taps on a metal slavery built machine, then yeah, of course your priorities are going to be in the wrong place. And so yeah, number 8. What are some reasons why youth violence is increasing in communities and how can we effectively reduce it? Youth violence is increasing because adult violence has never stopped. The first place I learned violence was always from the adults around me. Because they didn't just teach me violence physical, they taught me how to lie about why that violence existed. They always made it out to be that I did the wrong thing and so I deserve the violence in that instance. But if I do the right thing, then I won't get the violence. They convinced me that it was my problem to navigate and avoid rather than their problem to resolve within themselves. Violent people will never tell you they're violent. That's why nice and kind are not the same word. Violent people are nice when they need to be nice, and they're violent when they feel safe to be violent. Kind people fear violence. That's it. So how do we reduce it? Be kind. I don't care for niceness. I like it when people don't like me because that's a kind thing to do. When you openly dislike somebody and what you do with that dislike is you just talk to them less, engage with them less, right? And that's how you do it. There's no violence in that because where's the violence there? Violent people hurt people they love. They hurt people they just like, and they hurt people they don't like. They hurt everybody. And they'll try to convince you that if you stay on their good side, then they won't hurt you. But that's a lie. They hurt everybody. Violent people hurt everybody. Kind people hurt people too, but only because they just choose to like people and not like people, right? When I forget a friend's birthday, I'm gonna hurt them sometimes. When I accidentally comment on someone's weight, I hurt them. It's not the kindest thing to do. It's not nice. But if I'm not someone who goes out of my way to spread hurt, that even when I hurt people, I can still be kind about how I react. Because it's not about who I am as a person, whether I'm a good person or bad. It's just, oh God, right? I fear violence. I didn't like that when I said this, when I did that, I hurt someone. I didn't like it. And when I look at that situation and I see that I did hurt someone, I want to fix it in whatever way I can. And if that means stepping back and just not having access to that person, just not being liked, maybe that's okay. But a violent person will do whatever they can to manipulate a situation so that no matter how you look at it, they're justified in why they did it, why they said it. They will never allow themselves to be someone who's just done something wrong. Because if they allow it once, then they'll have to look back at everything they've done, and they'll have to really grapple with the fact that they're violent. And that will destroy them because the road to healing is ugly. The road to being kind is ugly. The violence never goes away. You just choose to deal with it and still be kind. It's ugly. So how can we effectively reduce it? Start with yourself and hold your loved ones accountable. That's all you can do. But there's no law you can pass, right? If I pass a law and they're saying murder is bad, don't murder, is that supposed to stop murder? If I hold people accountable around me, where I say, hey, I get that gay people make you uncomfortable, but saying they should all die is a terrible thing to say. It's a violent thing to say. Don't ever say that around me. If you do, we won't be friends. You save lives doing that because you let people know that even just entertaining violence in thought is still violence, right? You shut it down before it becomes action. So yeah, number nine. How can communities better understand and meet the changing needs of young people to keep them interested and healthy? Here's an easy one. Ask them. Ask them. Ask them. Again, this is why we've lost the plot. Ima- Imagine I'm a theoretical teacher. The fact that the students in my class did not ask for me to be their teacher, but they still have to deal with me as their teacher, right? Despite the fact that they still do have changing needs and they still need to be interested and healthy to be able to succeed, you've lost before you've even begun. If we were to simply ask and none of the options work for them, then boom, new opportunity. What options would? You keep asking until you get an answer. You keep asking until you have you have to be part, you have to make them, you have to bring them in the room, right? Young people need to be in the room when we make decisions. If they just have to take decisions as they are, we're wasting their time. We're wasting their potential. We just need to ask them, especially as they get older, right? I don't mean ask two, three, 4-year-olds what we should be making for dinner. I mean, if you're 13, 14, 15, you should be able to tell me what you want to learn about, what you want to do. That's not a lot to ask, especially if the alternative is forcing you to just learn whatever. God, yeah, the way things work is just very stupid, in my opinion. And yeah, so the fact that young people aren't that interested and also aren't that healthy. The amount of y'all that smoke, that's crazy. Like, I smoke too, to be quite honest. I'm no better, but that's why it's crazy to me. I'm just like, if you have this habit now, so young, imagine how hard it's going to be for you at my age, still very young, to break something that was built when you didn't have as much of an adult view on how to live life. That's it. That's what's crazy to me. It's not even a you thing. It's just how have we allowed this to exist for so long and not started there? If we just asked you, what will it take for you to stop smoking? And we did that. That was all that we did. Would you not be better off than being forced to learn a bunch of math, history, science, English, and your one option, and while still smoking? I don't know. It's just anyway. 10. What role do curfews play in maintaining safety and discipline among youth, and how can they be balanced with the need for personal freedom and development? Um, I have nothing to say to this question. How can communities address and prevent vandalism committed by youth, and what proactive measures can be taken to channel their energy into more positive activities? I have nothing to say to that question. 12. What significant changes have you noticed in your community over the years, and how have these changes impacted the lives and perspectives of young people today? I actually do have a lot to say about that. Number one, I was here 2 years ago. I'm back. The high school that was here for decades, gone, rubble, destroyed, zero, finito. The area not too far from where I'm staying, is constantly being dug up, and it looks very ugly. That big construction area, not too far from where the road out of the community is. Construction, so ugly, so disgusting. I hate looking at it. It looks like a scar. It gives me the feeling that over time, the more and more economically developed things get, the more and more similar to the colonized it feels. And when I say similar to the colonized, I don't mean colonized people, but just colonized land. Like I grew up in cities, I grew up in concrete, where no matter how hard I picture, I can't know what it looked like before. I can't. But the hard part about here is that I've seen the before, and so when I see it change and it looks uglier, how that impacts me at least, or what perspective it gives me, is that the future is not bright, that things will keep getting bleaker. That more people, right? In the same way more trees are cut, more land is torn up, more people will be addicted, more people will be dying, right? More people will be dead. And the perspectives of young people, if this is their start, if this is what they're seeing at the start of their lives, how are they supposed to have hope? How? Where do you start? Where do you start? And so as I reach the last question, the last topic, it just says choose your own topic. And the topic I want to end off that I'm not going to answer, but that I'm going to bring forward in the hopes that all of this ranting, all of this flow before, it has some purpose. It's that walking around here, living here, and also growing up in my own cultural background, the biggest intersection I've seen between my culture and Cree culture, other than colonialism, that Canada has played a part in. Other than that, we'll cover that next chapter. We'll cover that next chapter. But the biggest intersection culturally that I've seen has actually been Christianity, which again relates to the colonial. We're gonna touch on that. We're gonna touch on that. But Christianity in the sense of a perspective, a story on life and what our values should be. and how we treat life. For culture, that's very important. And the reason the intersection's important for me is less about people's views on who they think Jesus was and what Jesus did and what his death meant, but more of the fact that Jesus was a historical person, right? Like when I say it's September 27th, 2025, that number 2025 is culturally linked to this idea that it's 2025 years after his birth, right? 2025 years after his birth. And that if we use our historical metrics, where he didn't really start his ministry, the things like really recorded in the New Testament, he didn't really start that until like age 30, right? That means that when we hit 2030, per se, 2030 onwards, we're hitting a point where we are now 2,000 years post whatever story is recorded in the New Testament scripture. 2,000 years post, which isn't a long time, to be quite honest, right? Especially in the realm of Cree culture, where Cree people have inhabited the land for what, almost like for more than 10,000 years. So, on a historical level, right? On a historical level, the topic I really want to hear from my students doesn't have to be in a class, just the people who are interested in hearing my thoughts, who want to learn from me. What I want to hear from my students, what I want to ask to them is, what place do you think today has in the stories of Christianity? I'll say it again. What place do you think today has within the stories of Christianity? Or if we can agree that in the same way my family's culture is Christian and we come from Africa, and a lot of people here in this community are Christian, and the land that they inhabit is right here where my feet are, right? Right beside a bay that goes into Arctic Ocean that leads out to the rest of the world of swaths of forest, right? Right beside a big river that leads right up to a dam, built by people who worship for some reason the same God. Somehow, the loving God who says love your neighbor. Yeah, the colonial people who didn't love their neighbors, who colonized their neighbors, they somehow worship him too. So yeah, given this kerfuffling of all these places, all these stories, all these histories, and localizing them 2025, 50th anniversary of the JBNQA. JBNQA is the James Bay Northern Quebec Agreement for anyone watching who doesn't know that. Um, right, we put a big stick right in 2025, and we say zero is the birth of Jesus. Um, yeah, what does this timeline mean to you? What does today mean to you? Because tomorrow's coming, right? If Judgment Day, the rapture, that was apparently supposed to happen a few days ago, whatever the fuck TikTok tells you. Um, if if this is some supposed day where we all have to take an inventory of ourselves and what we've contributed to the world, if that's a day found past September 27th, 2025, right? What role do you think you have in contributing to that story? Because you're alive in the exact same universe. What role? You tell me. I'm curious. I know my role. If I actually, like, yeah, like if I have to put my answer on paper, um, I reckon I have about less than 8 years left. And I say that with a smile because regardless of whether that's true or not, it makes life feel more substantial to see it that way. That I've lived 26 years, and for these next 8 years, I'm always gonna have something to say. And after 8 years, I'm not. Because everything I need to say will be said. So that's why I leave it to you. Not in the sense of how many years do you have left, but what do these years mean to you? What does this year mean to you? What does life mean to you? What's coming next? It's gonna flow, just like every day before this has. But for once in my life, I know exactly where I'll be. And it'll just be me being sexy. Later, y'all.